So they went from manipulative to actively trying to steal the key document.
Pretty much. They're acting like criminals at this point, searching for the evidence they need to take control.
But the narrator was one step ahead.
Thankfully, yes.
What would you do if the people you trusted most tried to take everything from you? For me, it wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a scammer. It was my own parents. That opening line, I mean, it just hits you, doesn't it? It's straight from the source we're diving into today, an account called Inheritance Betrayal, a family divided by greed.
It really does. And it sets the stage perfectly. We often think, inheritance fights are between distant relatives, maybe cousins or siblings who weren't close.
Yeah, that's the usual story.
But this betrayal comes from the absolute core, from the parents, and it's centered on an inheritance left specifically to their child, who was only 18 at the time.
Just 18, wow. So our mission today is really to unpack this whole thing. We want to look at the timeline, the specific tactics used here.
Exactly. It's not just about the money, though that's obviously a huge part of it. It's about seeing how manipulation and, frankly, financial abuse can happen, especially from people you're supposed to trust implicitly. It's almost like a playbook for what not to do and what red flags to watch for.
Okay. Let's get into it then. We really have to start with the relationship between the narrator and their grandfather. That seems like the foundation for everything that follows.
Absolutely crucial context. The narrator says they were incredibly close. And it sounds like the grandfather really filled a gap left by the parents.
Oh, so?
Well, the source mentions he was deeply involved, helped raise them, taught them skills, showed up for school stuff, really present.
Unlike the parents.
Right. The parents were described as usually too busy. So you see this contrast right away. The grandfather was the consistent, supportive figure.
Which makes the inheritance feel even more significant, more personal. It wasn't just like a random bequest.
Precisely. It was deeply symbolic of that bond and, I think, his desire to protect the narrator.
So what was the actual inheritance and why was it chosen, do you think?
It was a house, specifically a house that was paid off and in good condition.
Okay, so a solid asset.
Very solid. And choosing a house, something tangible and secure instead of just, say, cash. It really signals that protective intent. The grandfather wanted the narrator to have a secure future. It feels like maybe he anticipated potential issues, maybe even knew his own child, the narrator's parent, might cause trouble.
That's an interesting angle, and that sense of security, well, it didn't last long, did it?
Not at all. This is where it gets shocking fast. The source says the conversation about the house started the day after the funeral.
The day after?
Yeah. I mean, zero time for grief, zero respect, just straight into the financials.
That swiftness alone is a huge red flag. It suggests they weren't thinking about logistics, they were thinking about opportunity.
Predatory is the word that comes to mind. It feels like they were maybe already planning this.
Yeah.
The narrator initially thought, okay, maybe this is about estate stuff, practicalities.
Right, normal stuff.
But no. It became clear very quickly the goal was just take the house.
And what was the excuse? How did they frame it? Because they must have known legally it wasn't theirs.
Oh, they used a classic manipulation tactic, especially common when dealing with someone younger. They put on the sort of concerned parent hat.
The we know best approach.
Exactly. You're too young to handle a house? We'll take care of it for you. Don't worry, when you're older, we'll help you buy your own place.
Right, making it sound like they're doing the narrator a favor.
It's designed to invalidate the narrator's rights by questioning their maturity. But what's really striking here is the narrator's clarity, even at 18.
Yeah, they saw right through it.
Instantly.
Yeah.
The source says they knew deep down if they signed that deed over, they'd never see that house again.
Yeah.
No lawyer needed for that gut feeling.
So they refused.
Politely, but firmly, just said no.
And that polite no, that's when things really went south.
That's the trigger moment. The refusal, that simple boundary, is when the parents shifted from, let's say, persuasion to outright hostility. Things got ugly fast.
So coercion, guilt tripping, the works.
Oh yeah. The gloves came off immediately. They started calling the narrator selfish, greedy, trying to make them feel morally wrong for simply wanting what was legally theirs.
It's emotional blackmail, basically.
Textbook. If logic and law don't work, attack their self-worth until they break.
And to make themselves feel okay about this, or maybe to convince others, they cooked up a justification, right? This idea that they somehow deserved the house.
They did. They invented this narrative that they'd taken care of Grandpa.
Which wasn't true.
Completely false, according to the source. Grandpa lived independently right up until the end. But this story served a purpose.
What purpose?
Twofold, really. First, it tries to create a moral claim that supposedly outweighs the legal will. Second, it paints the narrator as ungrateful, like they're snatching the house away from the devoted caregivers.
Wow. And they didn't just keep the story between them and the narrator.
No, that's the next escalation. They took it public, within the family at least, started a smear campaign.
Against their own kid.
Yep. Spreading misinformation to relatives, saying the narrator was ungrateful, hoarding money, all while claiming they, the parents, were struggling.
Were they actually struggling financially?
The source says no. Both had good jobs. It wasn't about need, it was about, well, greed and using victimhood as a weapon to isolate the narrator.
That's incredibly damaging, turning family against them.
It's a form of social abuse, designed to cut off support. If everyone else thinks you're the bad guy, who do you turn to?
And then the pressure cooker really heats up. It moves beyond words and into actions. Physical boundary violations.
It does. The narrator starts noticing things aren't right in their space. Papers moved, drawers disturbed.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Becomes clear the parents are actually sneaking in trying to find the deed. Had the foresight to secure the deed somewhere safe at the bank.
That's such a crucial detail. Anyone listening, if you're in a situation like this, get those important documents secured off-site.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Critical first step. A safe deposit box, lawyer's office, somewhere inaccessible. Because once the parents realized they couldn't just find the deed, well, that seems to have pushed them to the next level, the most desperate one.
Okay, so this is the climax, the point of no return. What did they do?
They crossed the line into outright, undeniable fraud.
How?
The narrator gets a call. Not from the parents, but from a realtor.
A realtor. Why?
Because the parents had tried to put the house on the market. And to do that, they literally forged my signature on the listing documents.
Forge the signature. That's a crime, a felony.
It absolutely is. There's no gray area there. It moves way beyond a family dispute. It's attempted theft through identity fraud.
The nerve required to do that to your own child. It's hard to wrap my head around. It shows, I guess, how completely the greed had taken over.
It speaks volumes, yeah. Entitlement, desperation.
Yeah.
Maybe they felt they'd exhausted all other options, the guilt trips, the sneaking around.
Yeah.
So they risked jail.
So discovering this forgery attempt, that must have been the final straw. What did the narrator do then?
The response had to be just as definitive. Immediately hired a lawyer.
Smart move.
Essential move. Secured everything legally, locked it all down tight, and then cut off contact. Made it crystal clear. Any future interference, any trespassing, and charges would be pressed.
So establishing a hard legal boundary where the emotional ones just kept getting trampled.
Precisely. And interestingly, the lawyer actually recommended going further.
Like pressing charges for the forgery itself.
Yeah, pursuing criminal charges.
Yeah.
But this is where you see that really difficult internal conflict.
Even after all that, it's still your parents.
Exactly. The narrator says they just couldn't bring myself to send my own parents to jail.
Wow. That takes an incredible restraint. Or maybe just exhaustion.
Probably a mix. The goal wasn't revenge, it seems. It was just peace, separation. Getting them out of their life was the priority, not punishing them through the legal system. The betrayal itself was punishment enough, perhaps.
That choice really says a lot. Focusing on survival and future peace, not retribution. So, fast forward. The source says it's been almost 9 years.
Yeah, nearly a decade later.
What's the situation now for the narrator and with the parents?
Well, the good news first. The narrator still has the house, lives there, has renovated it, made it their own, turned this object of conflict into like a symbol of their independence.
That's fantastic. A real victory.
It is. But the relationship side, well, there's been no healing, zero reconciliation.
Did the parents ever apologize? Even try to explain?
Never. Not once. And what's maybe even worse, they apparently still tell people that the narrator stole from them.
Still sticking to that false narrative after 9 years.
Still sticking to it. That complete refusal to acknowledge the truth, the harm they caused.
Yeah.
It's like a continuation of the abuse, in a way. It denies the narrator's reality and prevents any kind of real closure. It shows they value their story, their entitlement, more than their child.
That is just staggering. But the narrator, despite that lack of closure from the parents, seems to have found their own kind of closure. A powerful conclusion.
They really did. The source says that while it hurt, obviously incredibly badly at first. The whole ordeal ultimately gave them freedom.
Freedom? How so?
Freedom from toxic obligation, maybe? Freedom from the illusion of what that family relationship was supposed to be. They reached this really stark but strong realization. The quote is powerful.
Yeah.
If your parents value money more than their own child, then maybe they were never really parents at all.
Oof. That's a heavy conclusion, but also incredibly clarifying.
Born from trauma. But yeah, it offers a certain clarity when you look back at the whole sequence. The guilt trips, the lies, the sneaking around, the social isolation, and finally, actual forgery.
Oh,
The lengths they went to for property.
yeah. It really hammers home why taking immediate, decisive action is so important when those lines get crossed. Securing documents, getting legal advice right away.
That quick thinking was key. If the narrator hadn't secured the deed, hadn't hired the lawyer when they did, the outcome could have been very different. That decisive action is what allowed them to keep the house and ultimately achieve that separation they needed.
And this whole story, it really forces you to question the automatic assumption that family is always a safe haven. We tend to think threats come from outside.
But this account is a stark reminder that sometimes they don't. Sometimes the cracks, the breaks, they come from within the family unit itself.
It's a painful thought.
It is, but maybe also liberating in a difficult way. And it leaves us and you listening with a pretty profound question to chew on. At what point does the hunger for money, for assets, completely destroy the bonds of love and family? And ultimately, what's the real price paid by those who choose money over connection?